Well, hi again. I'm the Associate Pastor, Scott Nellis, here at All Saints Lutheran. And this is video 2 of a 4-part series about myself, allowing you all to kind of get to know me beyond Sunday, beyond Wednesday Bible studies, and I'm glad to be with you. Today I'm going to be talking about why I am Lutheran, a question that I think we don't ask enough, maybe. I thought of this topic from the Living Lutheran magazine that has monthly prompts to people, and I think it's been helpful for me to think about why I believe what I believe. I haven't always been Lutheran, and so I want to share a little bit of insight with you about how I became Lutheran and why I'm still an active believing Lutheran. I was baptized and confirmed in the United Methodist Church, and that was my life as a child. That was all I knew, all I had experienced. I was in a Methodist youth group. I went to camps, a Methodist camp, and was in the choir and attended Sunday school weekly. In college, though, I began to kind of experiment a little bit. I attended a Christian Student Union meeting, CSU they called it, and it was affiliated loosely with the Baptist Student Union, which is a national organization. And so even though it was non-denominational, it had kind of Baptist influences. And I say that not in a negative way, but to express that it did theologically, I was being exposed to kind of a lot of evangelical Baptist thought. And I found, though I loved my time in CSU, and it was so formative and foundational in kind of helping to ignite my faith in college, I also found that the Baptist and evangelical theology that I was being kind of exposed to was a bit heavier on law than gospel. And that at the time I didn't know the difference. I didn't know kind of how to evaluate. But nonetheless, it was still a very, very foundational time and experience to kind of develop my faith. A time that I was kind of able to study the Bible and able to ask, okay, well, why do I believe in God? Why do I call myself a Christian? And then post-college, I continued to kind of be involved in ministry, some Methodist ministries, some non-denominational ministries. I led a young adult Bible study. And in 2004, when I became engaged to my now wife, Mary, I became a Lutheran. We led a high school Sunday school class, and we joined the church, and I became a Lutheran, like many people, because my spouse-to-be was Lutheran. She was a Lutheran because her family was Lutheran. But I found in time that I wanted to know why I was Lutheran. I wanted to know why, beyond being now married to a Lutheran, why did I want to be a Lutheran? And what I found was that the theology, the Lutheran theology, hooked me. And I found that learning about God's grace, the idea that there is nothing that I can do to earn God's grace, and that there is nothing that I can do to unearn it, that proved so foundational to me. Everything I had been taught up to that point, again, was a little bit heavier on law. A lot of it was what I needed to do to please God. I had been taught that I needed to be repentant, that I needed to live a life worthy of God's love and blessing. And I also found that continually striving to please God, to live a worthy life, was not only impossible but exhausting. And so I found a freedom in Lutheranism. I found a freedom to be who I was, and the knowledge that God loved me as I was, without having to do anything to kind of climb a ladder toward God. And I found that message to be very life-giving. And it was what I needed. It freed me from the burden of always trying to measure up to God. And so, again, the theology of Lutheranism definitely hooked me. I fell in love with it. And I wanted to mention a few books that I began to read when I became a Lutheran that helped me a lot to develop why I believed what I believed. The most important book that I believe helped develop my newfound Lutheran faith was Philip Yancey's What's So Amazing About Grace. This book is one of the best books I've ever found that explains the idea of an unmerited grace of God. And so if you haven't read it, that would be recommendation number one that I would offer to you. I also liked Jason Boyette's O Me of Little Faith. This is more of a kind of quirky look at the path of faith, a path that where we often wander and we sometimes kind of fall off the path, but how God always brings us back to the path. And then the late Rachel Held Evans, Evolving in Monkey Town, how a girl who had all the answers learned to ask the questions. I found that book too. That book opened up for me the way to be able to have a healthy doubt, a healthy level of doubt and questions that I knew God was big enough to handle. And I've always been kind of a doubter. I've always kind of been a questioner. And some of these books allowed me to question and to feel empowered to seek out God's truth. So I'd like to conclude with a video from the ELCA's own Nadia Bowles-Weber. She is an author and a pastor and has been very inspiring to many people, including me. Nadia made a little video, you can find it on YouTube, called Lutheran Theology in 90 Seconds. And I want to conclude with that little snippet of a video because I find Nadia to feel the same way I do about Lutheranism. Lutheranism gave me the language that I needed about God. I believed a lot of things about God, but much of what I had been taught was that I had to somehow attain faith, that by my belief, by my action, I had to be good enough to earn faith in God. I didn't hear enough of how God in Jesus always comes down to humanity and embraces and loves us as we are. And Lutheranism finally gave me that assurance and that language, and I fell in love with it. Nadia puts it very well, so I'd like to kind of conclude the video with her Lutheran Theology in 90 Seconds clip. I thank you for continuing to tune into these videos, and we'll see you in a week. Thank you.
And what I learned in the confirmation class blew my mind. Here's what I learned. God's grace is a gift that's freely given. We don't earn it. We just try and live in response to it. He taught me that nobody's climbing the spiritual ladder. I learned that no one's climbing the spiritual ladder, right? We aren't like continually self-improving like Tide detergent, right? Nobody's just getting better and better and better and better and better. But that God always comes to us and makes us new, and then makes us new again, and then makes us new again. And it's called death and resurrection. And that the relationship we have to God, the movement's always this way. God's always coming to us. We don't make our way to God. And then he said this, he said, We're all simultaneously sinner and saint, 100% of both, all the time. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have an enormous capacity for destruction of myself and other people, but I have an enormous capacity for kindness too. And finally, someone explained that to me. So you know why I'm a Lutheran? So you know why I'm a Lutheran? Because you are the first people in my life who gave me language for what I had experienced to be true. I had already experienced all of that to be true, and you gave me language for it, and I'm so grateful. And it changed my life.